Refereeing aside, which we'll come to, it was a pretty determined performance by Newcastle overall. They defended resolutely, I'd say, good shape, nullified the threat of Martinelli and Saka pretty well. One shot on target all game for them. Eddie Howe was rightly proud of his players and how they held firm. How did you rate Newcastle's performance in this game, which had a lot of controversy, really, didn't it?
It did, but I don't think that should take away from the way that they played, as you mentioned. I think they were really, really strong in this game. And considering the kind of congested fixtures they've had of late and the potential downside in form with them contending with the Champions League and the league, I think this is a really important statement win for them. And it shows that they are going to be back around that top four conversation again this season, because this is an Arsenal side that were unbeaten so far in the league. And although they put a lot of pressure on Newcastle in the second half, it felt like Newcastle never were out of control of the game in many ways. So yeah, an excellent performance from them. They just seem to want to put everything they can into this tie, and you can understand why when the opposition like Arsenal come to town, really.
Well, it's kept them in sixth place, but it's closed the gap on Aston Villa, hasn't it? We'll talk about later. And another big win for them. Another big win for them, Dave, wasn't it? After obviously the result against Manchester United as well in the Carabao Cup. And another massive test pass for Eddie Howe.
Yeah, it was fine margins, wasn't it, really? The game that was decided on. And, it seems like there was big question marks, I think, around Newcastle this season, because we thought, how were they going to contest the league and obviously Europe, and obviously alongside the other competitions that they're in, and they're actually managing it really well so far. And they're performing in the big games against the big teams, and I think that's what we were questioning, obviously, over the last few weeks, whether they can obviously maintain this consistency. And the answer for that so far is yes. Arsenal, I thought on the balance of things, the game on a whole, there wasn't a lot in it, to be honest. I thought Arsenal were probably the better team in the first half. Whereas Newcastle came more into it in the second half and obviously got the goal. Needless to say, there was a bit of controversy around it all. But VAR, after a long deliberation, came to the conclusion that it was given. And I don't know, what do you think? Do you think it was the right decision?
It was building up to it, wasn't it? The game, I think, was simmering from the first whistle, really, wasn't it? There was all sorts of flashpoints going on. And I think before the goal even, and the kind of tackles that were flying in, Kai Havertz was lucky to escape with just a yellow card, you could say, although I could see why only a yellow was given. And also was it an elbow or his forearm smash from Bruno Guimaraes on it was on Jorginho, wasn't it, for Arsenal?
Yeah.
Both pretty brutal flashpoints in what was quite a spicy, feisty encounter, wasn't it, Myles? And we'll talk about the goal in a minute, but I think the St James's Park atmosphere really added to that, didn't it? It kind of created this cauldron that was only kind of inflamed more by the things that were happening on the pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously there's recent drama in this fixture as well from Arsenal's side of things, when they narrowly missed out on the top four and it kind of fell apart at St James's Park a couple of seasons ago. So you can see that both of these sides were up for it, and it was channeled in very odd ways. Guimaraes was very lucky to stay on the pitch, because take the forearm to Jorginho aside, he still could have picked up an additional 4 yellow cards in the game. I think it was crazy to me that it took as long as it did before he even picked up his first caution, because in that first half alone, he lost his head, and it felt like it was just a matter of time before someone was dismissed. It's a miracle that no one was in this game. So yeah, it was feisty, and in the end, it seemed like Newcastle managed that better, and it didn't look like it was always going to go that way, because you mentioned that Havertz challenge. Well, what an excellent bit of gamesmanship that is, really, because he picks up a yellow. 3 Newcastle players got booked for the same challenge. So really, he played the numbers game there, didn't he? And it seemed like Arsenal could have just rode that momentum. I said to a few friends I was talking to about it, for me, you saw Guimaraes running around the pitch like that. At half-time, whoever I am, if I'm an experienced Arsenal player, I'm going to go and push him. I'm going to get myself booked, knowing I'm going to rile him up enough that he's going to get sent off, because that's where his head was at. And that kind of wily side of the sport, it still kind of felt like that was missing from Arsenal. And I think we've seen that massively since the game finished. The complaints about the goal, the way they even dealt with the goal itself, and the way that the manager and the club have come out, they just seem rattled by this fixture. And Newcastle did a really good job of making sure that pressure got to them, didn't they? And capitalised. And actually, some of the individual performances from Newcastle deserved the win, particularly Anthony Gordon, who got the winner. whatever you want to say about the goal itself, he had a great game. I thought he looked really, really good. He's really come into his own this season so far at Newcastle. And defensively, they were really strong, particularly that second half when Livramento came on. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. So, yes, you could say that there was controversial decisions. I think Guimaraes definitely should have been sent off. But I don't think you can begrudge Newcastle the win.
But you have to reflect sometimes on where Newcastle have come in such a short space of time. And yes, they've got some players of real quality that they've added, like you mentioned, but there's still a core of a team there, some of which played in the Championship with them as well, who have been with the club a long time and haven't been upgraded on and have actually proved their worth. And I think some of the players that started against Manchester United were an example of that. United rested plenty of players too, but Newcastle was still playing pretty much half a second string team. So the coaching Eddie Howe's done has been remarkable, I think. And the fact that he's got them riled up, the crowd obviously helped for a game like this. You know, Arsenal are the second best team in the country as things stand based on last season. It's brilliant. And they're up there as contenders, aren't they, for the top four despite the doubts.